Hello guys, today it's about coloring the inlet and exhaust mesh on your Steam Deck. In this case I just have a shell to work on. In your case you will have your fully assembled Steam Deck, where you first of course take off the back shell, because we want to take out the mesh from the back shell. The original mesh is like held in place by like little melted mushroom heads, and we have to get rid of those first before we can take out the mesh. And therefore we're gonna use a drill bit, and I would advise you to do this by hand. You can do this with a drill, but I would not do it because it's turning too fast and you don't want to break something in the process. And just like that, you center it on the little plastic mushroom and you turn it away until you can feel it slightly grind on the metal mesh. It doesn't hurt it, it's fine. You don't have to be super careful because that won't be visible anyways later on. So it's 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. Take your time and make sure that you feel the metal of the mesh when you drill out the head of it. Because if there's still some left from the plastic head, from the plastic pin holding back the mesh, it's gonna be hard to pry it out, and you don't wanna bend it too much. If you bend it a little bit, that's not a problem. The mesh is like super soft metal. You can just like put it on the table and flatten it again and just like bend it back into shape. Once you got rid of all the plastic heads, you use a tool to pry it out, and voila, there is your mesh. A little bend there, just bend it back, good as new, not a problem. We put that to the side for now. Right up next we have our exhaust mesh. For me this is now super easy because this is just a shell with everything out. For you can do it two ways. You can like bone it out like I have it like right in front of me right now, or with everything still intact, even like with the heatsink inside, you can get it out. The first thing you have to do either way is to break the glue points, this on the left and on the right, and you simply like go with a tool or a knife in and simply like pry it outwards a little bit, and then the glue point will break loose, as you can see. And in this case you could like easily like just like put it out from the front. Of course, if you do this with the Steam Deck still fully assembled, it is a little bit trickier because there's not a lot of room to work with. Most importantly is that little pin you have to get the mesh by, and when you try to lift it upwards, that little pin is like the problem that's in the way. Good thing is that the plastic shell is quite bendy, and you are able to simply like lift the frame upwards and then slide the mesh slightly angled upwards and pull it out. You can use like an tweezers with a bent corner with an edge to pry it out, but you can like bend the frame slightly, of course not too much, you don't want to break it, but if it's still in there, that's the way how you get the mesh out. And you pull it up on the right side and you slide it out to the right direction, and then it's pretty much the same in reverse later on when it's colored. I did it myself like on 3 decks by now, it works. And the last one I did was a complete shell swap, and of course that's super easy because nothing is in it, and that's pretty much the first thing you do, like gluing the exhaust mesh to the frame. Next we're going to do is prepare the meshes for painting. So I'm using 1000 grit sandpaper and roughing up the surface slightly so the primer has a better grip on the metal mesh. There is not really a front and the back. You can really turn it both ways. You can put it in the exact same way like you put it out, but really it doesn't really matter. If you for some reason color the wrong side, there is no wrong side. You just have to like flip it and it will fit either way, so no worries there. And most importantly is the colored mesh. So if the frame around is not looking that great, it's not a big deal because the mesh is the only that's going to be visible. Only exception, of course, is when you're using a transparent shell. Then, of course, try to work as clean as possible, because everything will be visible more or less. Not perfectly, because it's not glass clear shell. It's slightly milky still, but yeah, in case you're working with a transparent, in this case, if you're doing this on an original deck shell, it doesn't matter at all. The only thing you're going to see is the mesh, and that needs to be looking nice and clean. And with a transparent shell, you should be a little bit more careful and make it really clean, because you can and will see it through the transparent shell. Once we sanded one side, we only need to work on one side, we clean it with a little bit of rubbing alcohol to get rid of the fine powder. We just like sand it off. Once the dirt is all off, we are ready for coloring the mesh. Feel free to use some nitrile gloves if you have some at hand, so you're protected from the color, and also we're not getting dirt on the mesh. So I used a simple cardboard, and very important, use a piece of paper towel where you put the meshes on. The paper towel will like suck up the excessive paint, because that way we can prevent like the mesh from clogging up. And there's also something very important later on I'm gonna show you, so we prevent it clogging up. So we're gonna use primer first, and after that, of course, the color itself. Give the can a good shake. Also, the room should be well ventilated, or even better, make it outside, but it should be clean, no dust around, so you don't get dust on the fresh paint. So you give it a few sprays of primer, and what you just saw is I moved it. So every time I give it a layer, I slightly move it, so that prevents like from color clogging up the mesh and giving the paper towel underneath it the possibility to soak it all up. Another layer, a little moving, and give it like a few layers until the whole surface is evenly covered. And then of course we put it to the side and let it dry. And once it is dry, we check again if everything is nicely covered, if the mesh itself is spotless and clean, and then it's about to put some color on it. Same as before, we have a paper towel underneath it, and then we give it the first layer. Give it a bit of time in between the layers, and never forget to move the mesh after each one of them. And you keep going for 2-3 layers, not too much, you don't want to have drops on it, and never forget to move it in between. And once that is done, you let it dry, just like before. So here we have our results, 2 nicely colored meshes. And the next we're going to do is to prepare them with double-sided sticky tape. This is some I got, you normally use that one for like gluing displays and phones, or also the Steam Deck. But you can really use any sort of double-sided sticky tape that sticks really well. This should like be pretty good. You could use super glue as well, but I'm not a big fan of super glue, because when super glue dries, it tends to make white spots on the plastic and even attacks the plastic in some way, and it's not clean, and more than often it did ruin projects of mine because I used too much super glue and the white spots, and it actually like attacks the plastic, so no good. Better use some double-sided sticky tape for that. We apply that on the side. We try to peel it off. There we go. And the same like before, with the shell like bare open like in the picture, it is of course super easy because you have total access, full access to the frame and to put it in. But like I explained in the beginning, when your deck is assembled, you can put it in. You just have to go from the right side, pull it underneath, pull it down, and then you have to bend that little pin on the right side upwards and then slide it slightly angled into position, and then it's in. Then just like press it against the top frame and you're pretty much done. So of course, with the inside gone, this is even easier. So when you're doing a shell swap with extreme rates, the mesh, they come with it, so you don't have to take out the old one, of course, and you can color that as well, obviously. But yeah, and like I said, the shell can take quite the bend. It takes a bit of force, just be careful, get a feeling for it, but you will be able to put it in. So the back mesh is way easier. We also just like apply double-sided sticky tape in between the holes, so of course it gets not in the way. So we do that as well with double-sided tape. You can use other stuff as well. You could use like tape on the top, along the top side and the lower side all the way. It doesn't really matter, as long you somehow manage to hold it in place. You can use whatever you want, even super glue. But same with super glue, watch out for the vapors. You don't want like white vapors like on the grill inside. It looks terrible. So either use some glue that does not produce those vapors when drying. It's mostly with not happening with slower drying glues. But double-sided sticky tape is still the safest way to go. So you just like prepare smaller stripes and put them on the mesh. You then of course simply like peel off the protective layer and line it up with the pins and press it down all the way. Push it really hard so the metal actually like goes over the pins. It takes quite some force when it snaps in, but the sticky tape will do the rest. And once you've done that, there it is, and that looks really great. So that's pretty much it. Your custom colored inlet and access mesh on your Steam Deck on the stock configuration. Of course, like I said before, if you get like JSOX or extreme rates, I'm not sure about JSOX, I just like bought like extreme rate by now. They come with both meshes and they are not in the shell, so you have easy access to color them right away. And of course it's also much easier to put them back in with nothing in the shell so far. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. Have fun and game on. Bye bye.